Salibonani. We are back again with another banger. I'm your host, Chicks, DJ Amatuke. Today we have our guest in the building, Uncle Chinash. Don't forget, this is the first episode of our podcast, Zvishavane Climate Watch, checking the impacts of climate change in Zvishavane and beyond. So tell us, who is Uncle Chinash?
Uncle Zvishavane is Tinashe Matambo is an environmental journalist who focuses reporting on environmental issues, including climate change.
Thank you, Mr. Matambo. So, Mr. Matambo, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with climate change in Zvishavane and how have you seen the climate change over years?
Oh yeah, let me just start by defining what exactly is climate change. This refers to the long-term warming of the planet, which is primarily caused by the increasing levels of greenhouse gases on the Earth's atmosphere. Yes, of course, here in Zvishavane, a town in Midlands province, we've been experiencing various climate change impacts, right? Including a rise in temperatures, increased average temperature levels, leading to heat stress and changing rainfall patterns. We also have been experiencing unpredictable rainfall, erratic and unpredictable rainfall, making it a challenge, difficult for farmers to plan and harvest their crops. We've also been experiencing droughts, increased the frequency and the severity of droughts impacting agriculture and the water availability. Here in Zvishavane, we have issues of flooding, more frequent and intense flooding events damaging infrastructure and crops here in Zvishavane. These are some of the challenges you are facing.
Okay, Mr. Matambo. So how has climate change affected your daily life, your family, and your community in Zvishavane?
Of course, we've been drastically affected by climate change, especially by the El Nino-induced drought, whereby most households are struggling to feed their families. You know, the El Nino-induced drought that the region is currently experiencing. So it has led to drought, right? Most families are food insecure. It was also led to water scarcity, decrease their water availability, affecting both the domestic and the agricultural use. Just like I mentioned, heat pressures due to high temperature levels here in Zvishavane have been drastically affecting residents. To kids, that has been causing heat rash. To adults, of course, it is causing exhaustion. You see.
Yeah. So, Mr. Matambo, so tell us, what are some of the biggest challenges what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a result of climate change?
Just like I mentioned, the main issue that the region is currently fighting, that is the El Nino-induced drought that came as a result of climate change. See, due to low rainfall levels, most farmers did not yield as they had expected when they planted. We yielded little crops due to little rainfall. It has affected our food security as a country, as a region, not sparing Zvishavane, a small town here in Midlands. Alright. So some of the challenges we'll be facing, these include we have decreased water levels. That is water scarcity here in Zvishavane. Okay. Because most of us, almost everyone, let me just say, everyone needs water. It's a basic need that needs to be provided. So when you experience the climate changes that have led to droughts, it means that we're going to have a low water supply from our respective authorities.
Okay. So how do you think climate change has impacted the local economy in agriculture?
Agriculture, of course, here in Zvishavane, most farmers are now bolting away from this region. Why? Because this is a drought-prone area. It's a very dry area whereby you're not sure when you plant whether it be a success or a failure. So this has pushed out many farmers from here, Zvishavane, So basically it affects our crops when you plant. When you have no rainfall, it's hard for you to be producing something that is standard, unless if you have an irrigation system that can help you sustain your crops.
Okay, Mr. Matambo. So what I can say, what traditional knowledge or practices do you think could be useful in adapting to climate change here in Zvishavane? Like, as a country, what should we do?
As a country, I believe traditional measures that should be implemented to tackle climate change here in Zimbabwe. Firstly, you should deal with the agroforestry, whereby we are integrating trees into farming systems so as to reduce soil erosion and increase biodiversity. Secondly, is conservation agriculture, planting crops that are drought tolerant and using mulch to retain soil moisture, right? We have rainwater harvesting, whereby you are collecting and storing rainwater for irrigation and domestic use. We have a crop rotation and a diversification. We are planting, whereby you are planting a variety of crops so as to reduce the dependence on a single crop and improve soil fertility. Alright, so we have also have a community-based natural resource management. This is a collaborative management of natural resources like forest and water sources to ensure sustainability. Right. We can also plant drought-resistant crops. Drought-resistant crops, plant crops that are adapted to drought conditions, such as we have small grains, we have cowpeas, etc.
So tell us, Mr. Matambo, like I heard the issue of cloud seeding. Can we do it here in Zimbabwe?
The issue of cloud seeding, yes, of course, it's very possible, but for it to be implemented in a small town like Zvishavane here in Zimbabwe, it's very impossible. So we need to look for other options that can help us sustain climate change and its impacts on our livelihoods.
Okay, Mr. Have you noticed any changes in weather patterns and seasons in Zvishavane?
Yes, of course, the changes have been very noticeable, like I told you, like I just said, the rising temperatures, increased average temperatures leading to heat stresses and the changing rainfall patterns.
Okay.
So some of the changes are not just about these heat rising up temperatures. We're also experiencing we also have some challenges when it comes to water scarcity, temperature rise, and predictable rainfall. You don't know when or why should you plant this because of its unpredictability.
Yeah, like here in Australia, like maskati kombo munga kuchitonora, and then later on the temperatures ango change. Sure. So the farmers what can we say?
Most people, let's touch on the rural areas. These climate changes led to what we call human migration. Climate change is now forcing people to migrate from rural areas to urban centers in search of better living conditions. You see, these are drought-prone areas, and in the rural areas they are most reliant on agriculture. If the rainfall is not sufficient for them to yield standard crops, then there is no livelihood. They will have to search for alternative plants. That's why they are flooding here in the Zvishavane town.
Okay, so how do you think the government or other organization could better support the community in addressing climate change?
The government, of course, they should launch up campaigns so that they educate people on what exactly is the climate change and measures that should be implemented so that we protect ourselves or we get over this climate change impacts. Of course, what we need is we need to develop and implement climate policies, enact laws and regulations to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, and the transition to renewable energy sources like solar, for instance. Invest in renewable energy, just like I was saying, you need to promote solar, wind, and other cleaner sources of energy to reduce dependence on fossil fuels. We need to increase energy efficiency, implementing measures to reduce energy consumption, such as building insulation and efficient lighting. Or fourthly, we also need to electrify transportation. We need to encourage our drivers, our motorists, to adopt the use of electric vehicles and public transportation, right? Then we have carbon pricing. We need to introduce a carbon taxes or cap and trade systems to provide a financial incentive and or for reducing emissions, right? Protect and restore natural carbon sinks. Preserve and expand forest, wetlands, and oceans that absorb carbon dioxide. Sure. So also need to support climate resilient infrastructure. We need to invest in an infrastructure that can withstand those extreme weather events and conditions. We also need to promote sustainable agriculture, that is encouraging farmers to practice farming like agroforestry, permaculture, regenerative agriculture. You also need to support climate change research and development. That is mostly demanded from the government. The government must fund research into new technologies and strategies for mitigating and adapting to climate change here in Zvishavane and Zimbabwe as a whole.
Okay. So, can you share a personal story about how climate change has affected you and your family?
Yes, of course. So sometime back in 2022, I was once a farmer in the outskirts of Zvishavane. So my intention when I bought this farm was to be producing something better like maize, of course. In some seasons that I will be rotating just to suit myself and also consider soil moisture. You see, what happened is very unfortunate. We didn't get much rainfall as we had anticipated, so we ended up producing poorly. Our harvesting was very poor, and we didn't retain the profits that we thought before that we were going to yield.
Okay, so what message would you like to share with others about the importance of addressing climate change in Zvishavane?
Yes, of course. Firstly and foremost, my message is to the Zvishavane Town Council and those who stakeholders who are interested into climate change. They must do thorough researches, implement more technology, implement more workforce persona, those people who can research more into climate change and how best we can tackle dangerous conditions or be it unfavorable conditions of climate change. That is my advice to the people. You also need to research on your own. You also need to be checking your information around climate change. What measures should be implemented whenever you face a climate change related challenge?
Okay, Mr. Matam. So, have you noticed any changes in the frequency or severity of extreme weather events, such as droughts or floods, here in Zvishavane?
Here in Shawani, yes, of course, we've been noticing some changes. Of course, like I told you, the weather patterns here in Shawani are very unpredictable. Sometimes it is very hot, or it's rainy, or it's cold when you least expect it. Just like today in the morning, or even yesterday, it was very, very cold.
Yeah.
But look at today, it's burning out there. If you go out there, you need a drink. Or a bottle of water so that you can survive these high temperatures out there.
Yeah. So, what do you encourage people? So, like the weather can change anytime. Saka, like for today, kwamuka uchitonora, kwazotanga kupisa chidipas.
So you come again?
Like, what can you encourage people to do? Like, kwamuka uchitonora, and later on kwazopisa. So what can you encourage people to do?
Yes, of course. When such situations happen, I encourage people to reduce energy consumption. They should use energy efficient appliances. They should turn off all lights, electronics, and taps when they're not in use. They should also insulate their homes and their buildings. And number two, they should transition to renewable energy. You see, to clean energy, they should invest much into solar panels or renewable energy credits or support policies promoting renewable energy. We also need to conserve water, take shorter showers, fix leaks, use water efficient appliances. We need to reuse and recycle. We need to minimize, of course, we need to minimize single-use plastics, repurpose items, and recycle correctly, right? I also encourage the residents to eat a plant-based diet. Choose a plant-based options, reduce food waste. Also, you need to educate yourself and others. They should stay informed about climate change. You should also share and exchange knowledge with others on what exactly is climate change and what you're expected to do when you will face certain circumstances of climate change related challenges.
Okay, Mr. Matambo. I hope the viewers Murukunyora passes are true Sona Mr. Matambo here in the studio. So, Mr. Matambo, have you noticed any changes like uh, like changes in the timing of seasonal events such as migration of animals or the blooming of the plants?
Of course, I haven't heard much about the animals because most of the animals that we have, they are domesticated animals. So where can they migrate? How are they migrating? You see, because these animals we are talking about, they have owners. Unless if we are talking about the baboons, baboons they are still there. They are very resistant to climate change. You see, they are very stubborn, of course. But I haven't heard much about that migration of animals just because of climate change in Zvishavane.
Okay, so how do you think climate change has impacted the local water supply and quality?
Climate change, of course, we have reduced the water supply due to high levels, high temperature levels, and drought that we have recently experiencing. You see, there was a low rainfall, and it had been hot throughout the year. Even this year, it's been very hot, so leading to water scarcity. You see, so I'm sure the council, the Zvishavane Town Council, should do more, educate people about how to use the water efficiently and how to conserve it. You see.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, are there any local success stories or initiatives that you think could be replicated to address climate change?
Or success issues. Yeah. Of course, we have the issue of water conservation. If we conserve water very well, we are bound to survive. You see. Yeah. So I'm calling for water conservation. And of course, the residents, they need to be educated. They need to know about climate change. They may take this thing for granted, of course, but it impacts us. Not just me as a environmental reporter, but also yourself as a resident who's listening. Climate change has an impact on your life, so you need to get educated. You also need to seek, disseminate, and share knowledge with others. You see, maybe for instance, you join community groups or even attend workshops that we are planning to organize in conjunction with the Zvishavane Town Council.
Okay, so are there any local policies or regulations that you think could be changed to better address climate change?
In terms of policies, yeah, of course, just like we said, we need to come up with a policy that deals with fossil fuels. You see, promote the use of renewable energy and electric cars, especially for motorists. Most of the cars we are seeing on the road, they are not being serviced. They are smoky. You see, but we see the police or those are responsible for checking up on climate. Emma, they are not doing their job as we are expecting, or as they are expected. You see, so they need to work hard so that we make sure that some of these policies they have should be implemented. The thing with Emma, I haven't seen them organizing much workshops or seminars where people can get to be educated about climate change. But they have the knowledge about climate change. Yeah. The thing is, they have the knowledge, but the people around them, surrounding them, they don't have the knowledge.
But Mr. Matambo, you are an expert in climate change. So why can't you gather those, like, what you say, what can I say? The events to, like shows to host shows, so that you can educate people on climate change.
Alright, financially we are constrained, we are incapacitated. For myself to be hosting such a big events, you see, the best I've done for the Zimbabweans is to write these climate related stories, the dangers of climate, how best we can adapt to these climate changes. Recently I've been writing stories across the region on how they have been affected by the El Nino induced drought.
Okay, Mr. Matambo. So how do you think the community can use technology such as renewable energy or climate resistance infrastructure to address climate change?
To address the issues of climate change, like I just said, we need to educate people. We need to share knowledge with others. You see, maybe for instance, you join community groups or even attend workshops that we are organizing in conjunction with the Zvishavane Town Council. The thing with Emma, I haven't seen them organizing much workshops or Also, we need new technologies, right? So that people, firstly, let's talk about education, because before those people get to use those technology, people need to know about climate change. Like I said, also they need to purchase gadgets, you see, that can help us take or minimize the effects, impact of climate change on our lives.
Okay, I think this is the end of our podcast. Thank you, Mr. Matambo, for joining us today. Don't forget your host, Sticks, DJ Ama 2K. This is Zvishavane Climate Watch, tracking the impacts of climate change in Zvishavane. I'm out.